We've been having a lot of ultrasounds over here lately, and while they're generally considered an easy test, it isn't always easy with an ostomy. Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and in today's video I thought we could talk about ultrasounds, especially when it comes to living with an ostomy. Ultrasounds are fairly common tests that are done for a variety of reasons, and usually they're considered pretty non-invasive. You know, you don't usually have to do a lot of preparation beforehand. There's usually not an IV or any needles or incisions involved with it. It's pretty easy to do, but when you live with an ostomy, it can feel a little bit invasive. Oftentimes when it comes to ultrasounds, you have to expose your belly. A lot of the times the organs that they're looking at with an ultrasound wand are in your abdominal cavity. So you might have to pull your shirt up. That means that your ostomy is going to be exposed, and not everybody is comfortable with that. Some people are totally fine whipping their bags out and saying, hey, here I am. Some people are not, and either way, it's totally fine. I go back and forth. Some days I'm having a great day. I feel like my bag is clean and looks nice and I don't care. But then there are other days where I feel less confident about it and I don't feel as comfortable showing it. That's just how it is sometimes. But when it comes to ultrasounds, you might be required to show your bag. So I thought we could talk about ways to make you feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more comfortable when it comes to these tests, some things that you can do to prepare for them. Thankfully, when it comes to ultrasounds, there really isn't a lot of preparation you have to do, but for those of us with ostomies, there are some things that are helpful. I also think it's really important to mention, I know I've been talking a lot about being pregnant on my channel lately because that's currently what I'm going through, but ultrasounds are done for a variety of reasons. I think we often associate ultrasound and pregnancy together, but I have had so many ultrasounds well before my pregnancy. I've had them for my Crohn's disease, to look at my bowels, especially if I ever had to go to the ER. I feel like that's usually the first test that they do because it is so easy and so quick. I've had it for my kidneys when I was dealing with the UPJ obstruction. I even had it one time, I think I was like 19 or 20. My gynecologist thought she felt a lump in one of my breasts, so I had an ultrasound on them. Turns out that I was so thin that she was feeling a rib. Yep. But ultrasounds can be performed for a variety of reasons, and I've been having a lot in the last year. I had a ton when I went through the ectopic pregnancy, and now that I am pregnant with a healthy little girl, I've been getting ultrasounds monthly just because of my disease. They want to keep a close eye on things, so I've been getting them monthly. Because I've had so many ultrasounds recently, it feels like back to back almost. There are certain things that I've noticed that I'm uncomfortable with, you know, or I'm worried about. I'm worried about my bag filling up beforehand because it's kind of awkward being on the table, especially if they ask you to reposition. If your bag's full, it like hangs to the side, it can get in the way, and it's hard to move it out of the way for the ultrasound tech when it's full. I'm worried about the appearance of it. I feel like I need to have a nice, fresh, clean bag. And I'm also, I know this is a little bit silly, especially since I've worked as a nurse, I'm worried about what the ultrasound tech thinks, or like what's going through their brain when I whip out this ostomy bag and they have to do a test on my belly. So I've learned some tricks because of all these frequent ultrasounds that I've been having. I thought I would share with you. One thing that helps me with ultrasounds is changing my ostomy bag and how I change it. So that way it gives me a little bit more confidence going in with a fresh ostomy bag, but also gives the ultrasound tech a little bit more access to my belly. I think that having a nice, fresh, clean ostomy bag really gives me personally a lot more confidence. If I've been wearing the ostomy bag for a few days, it tends to look a little bit rough. I think the fabric looks a little bit beaten up. The fabric starts pilling on the ostomy bags, and the flange extenders I use, or if I don't use the flange extenders, if I'm just, you know, wearing the flange with the fabric border, it starts to peel up, it starts to look gunky, and I'm like, it just doesn't feel clean to me. So for me to feel confident, one of the things I do is change the morning that I'm having the ultrasound. That way it looks like a brand new ostomy bag, because it is. And then I also know that it has the best ability to stick. You know, it's brand new, the adhesive's new, so I don't necessarily have to worry about it peeling up too much. So that's That's my number one tip. I think that's helped me probably the most when it comes to these ultrasounds. The other thing about what I do now with my bag changes, because sometimes depending on where they need to put the ultrasound wand, your ostomy might actually get in the way. With my pregnancy ultrasounds, babe girl likes to hang out behind my stoma. So they have to get really close in on my ostomy bag. Something I've been doing lately, just because I've had trouble with my round belly and my bag sticking, is I actually have been trimming off the fabric border of my flange and replacing it with flange extenders. This helps to keep moisture out, but the other thing I noticed is I actually trim the flange extenders down so they are thinner. That means that my ostomy flange is taking up less surface area on my belly, allowing for the ultrasound tech to get as close as possible to my actual stoma. I'm just trying to give her enough real estate to be able to look at everything that they need to. Another thing that's helped me a lot with all of the really frequent recent ultrasounds I've been having is actually, let me find it in my purse here, a stoma cloak. I carry one of these in my purse, but I'm also wearing one today because it helps with all that ultrasound gel. You may know that I've been doing some social media work for Stoma Cloak over on their pages, but they're kindly sponsoring this video. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to talk about them because I use my Stoma Cloak with every ultrasound now. The Stoma Cloak is an ostomy cover made of this functional fabric, so it doesn't just cover up your ostomy. The fabric actually has some unique abilities that most ostomy covers don't have. Some of the things that I found useful in the past is it eliminates odor, so if you ever notice any little bit of odor coming from your ostomy, I notice if I wear mine too long, sometimes there's a little bit of a scent. Throw on a Stoma Cloak and it wicks that odor away. It can also catch small leaks, so thankfully I don't deal with too many leaks under my flange anymore, but when I do, the Stoma Cloak actually overhangs the bag a little bit and the flange. So if you're out and about moving around and you start to feel that funny itch where you're like, am I leaking? The Stoma Cloak will actually put a layer between that leak and your clothing, so it buys you time to get to the bathroom. The two things that the Stoma Cloak does though that I think are really essential, really important to ultrasound specifically, are it wicks moisture, which is fantastic when it comes to that water-based gel that they use all over your belly, and it also is discreet. So I love that I can put the Stoma Cloak on. It protects my bag from getting covered in that gel, which really just, it feels uncomfortable. I was really getting irritated with my 40-minute drive home, feeling like my bag was wet. I mean, no matter how much I tried to dry it in the bathroom afterwards, I couldn't get it. Throw on a Stoma Cloak and it was dry by the time I got home. That helps you prevent skin irritation and stuff like that from that moisture sitting on your skin. I also love that it provides that extra layer of discreetness. If you feel like your ostomy bag is just, I don't know, not looking clean, not looking good, you didn't have time to change it maybe beforehand, I love throwing on my black Stoma Cloak. I think it looks nice and sleek, and it makes me feel more confident when I have to whip out my ostomy and have somebody looking at it. Throwing on a Stoma Cloak has been a really great way to add a layer of protection and comfort when I'm going into these tests. And I don't just wear them for ultrasounds, I wear them to all of my different tests. Thankfully, ultrasounds have been the majority of it. But it's just something really helpful to keep on hand, keep in your purse like I do. If you're interested in checking them out, head on over to stomacloak.com or check out their social media because I'm the one posting on there, and I'm just kind of sharing everyday life using one. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, and they're on YouTube. Thank you so much to Stoma Cloak for being a sponsor on this video. The next thing that I think about when it comes to getting an ultrasound done is eating and drinking. I kind of think about this for any kind of test that I get done. Thankfully, it's not as important when it comes to ultrasound, but they might give you instructions, especially when it comes to drinking. I know that for some of my pregnancy ultrasounds, they've had me drink beforehand to try and fill my bladder because that allows them to see things a little bit easier. This though, this can be a little bit funny. When it comes to having an ostomy, you know, they've told me to drink 30, 20 ounces of water right before I come in. And for people with colons, I know that might fill their bladder totally fine, and it might be perfect for the test. For me, if I'm chugging water like that, most of it goes into my ostomy bag. That's where it's filling up. I don't really get the opportunity to absorb a whole lot of that fluid. So I modify things for how I know my body works. Of course, you should talk to your healthcare provider about how to best handle this if they're asking for a full bladder. What I typically do is I hydrate how I normally would. I usually drink an electrolyte mix and slowly drink that the morning of my ultrasound. And then I will try to avoid using the bathroom before I leave. I've got a 40-minute drive to go get my ultrasounds where I go. And usually my bladder is full by the time I get there. That's how I personally handle it. That way my ostomy is not in overdrive causing issues there. That's just what I find personally works. So you have to look at that. If that's one of the instructions for your ultrasound, just keep that in mind and always ask ahead of time if there are special instructions for any test you might be getting. One thing that I've learned that's important is talking to whoever is conducting the test, whether it be the healthcare provider, the ultrasound tech, whoever it is, and just be open with them and set your expectations to be realistic. What I have noticed personally getting ultrasounds is that they aren't always aware that I have an ostomy. My ostomy feels like a big deal to me. It feels like one of the most out there health medical things about myself. But they might not be aware of it. You know, medical charts are pretty extensive. They include your whole health history, and it might be overlooked, and that's okay. I think every time at the OB when I've had my ultrasound, I've had 3 different people do my ultrasounds. They always seem a little bit surprised when I go in there and I say, hey, I have an ostomy. Actually, when I go in there and I talk to them about my ostomy, I say, I have a right-sided ileostomy. I like to be specific about the location and the type of stoma that I have. Depending on what type of stoma you have, that may impact the test, especially if you don't have a bladder. I know I just mentioned about how some ultrasounds require you to have a full bladder for them to see everything. That's a really important thing to mention if you don't have a bladder anymore. But I like to tell them what type of stoma I have. I say ileostomy so that way they know kind of what organs I still am working with. The other thing that I tell them too when I go into the ultrasounds is I say, hey, let me know if you need me to move my bag in any which way. My bag is a little bit longer, it hangs downwards, so I always say if you need me to lift the bag up and you need to get underneath of my ostomy bag, just tell me and I'll do it, because you know they wear gloves when they're doing the ultrasound, but I don't want them to have to touch the ostomy and then touch the wand. I'd rather they keep their hands as clean as possible. So I know they clean the equipment in between, but still, I feel like for them, maybe they don't want to touch the ostomy. That's totally fine. Let me do it. I'm happy to help. And also, they may need you to move around a bit, so set that expectation too. Thankfully, with most of my regular ultrasounds that don't involve pregnancy, you know, it's not a big deal. They don't have me move around too much, but with her, sometimes to get her to move in a certain position or to wake her up, they will poke on my belly. They'll have me turn side to side. So if that's the type of ultrasound you're getting, if you're doing it for pregnancy, just know that that might be the case. And finally, I think one of the most important things to remember is that these are healthcare professionals performing these tests. I know that it can be very nerve-wracking to show off your belly to a stranger. It can feel really weird, and I personally feel self-conscious about it every time I do it, even when I'm feeling the most confident about my ostomy. So I keep in mind, this is a healthcare professional. They have a level of professionalism that they keep with their patients, whether or not they are really well educated about ostomies. There are so many things in the medical field that healthcare professionals have to learn about, and I'll just tell you from experience, when you've seen it over and over again, that's when you really get to know a lot about it. These ultrasound techs might not see ostomies very frequently, but they're still going to hold themselves to a standard of professionalism. They aren't judging you for it because you know what? They're seeing a lot of stuff. They're seeing all different types of illnesses and different types of medical equipment. So don't ever feel ashamed in front of a healthcare professional. I really do try to keep that in mind every time that I go. I'm like, this is the least judging person because they're in this field to see different medical things, you know? They have to enjoy it at least a little bit, right? So anyways, those are the things that I've learned, especially over the last few months of getting all these frequent ultrasounds. These are the things that I do and prepare myself for to make it the most comfortable experience for myself. Thankfully, ultrasounds are the least invasive test when it comes to being poked and prodded at. But it can feel very exposing when you have to show your belly for them and you have an ostomy and you have scars and things like that. And you know, I love talking about my ostomy online, but I still feel that myself when I go to these tests. I still feel like a little uncomfortable, and that's totally fine. But these are the things that I do. These are the ways that I prepare for these tests. And I think I've kind of gotten my routine down where I feel the most comfortable that I can getting them done. Anyways, hopefully this video was helpful to you if you are heading into an ultrasound and you're a little bit worried about showing off your ostomy for them. Thank you to StomaCloak for sponsoring this video. I love using them with every test. You'll find it in my purse if you happen to go through my purse. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next. Bye guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are looking for a way to help support my channel, consider liking this video or even subscribing. You can also check out my store at LetsTalkIBD.shop. I have stickers and hoodies like these guys over here, just related to chronic illness and inflammatory bowel disease, something fun. And I also have a coupon code for my YouTube watchers. You could also become a member of my channel like the wonderful people scrolling on screen here. They've become a member and they have access to videos a little bit earlier. It's a great way to support my channel, and really, just watching my videos means the world. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.